of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the consent agenda to consider. Does anyone have anything they'd like to have removed from the consent agenda? No. Okay. Moving on to fiscal officer's report.
I have nothing to put forward to the board today, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Russ about anything that he sent to us? All right, we're moving on to public comments. I see we have a gentleman here. Have anything you'd like to say?
That's me.
Yep. Yeah,
So good morning, everyone.
good one.
I think you remember I was here 2 weeks ago.
If you would go ahead and state your name.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm Richard Zediker, and I live on 6401 Township Line Road. And so I was here a couple weeks ago at the 5:30 meeting concerning issues that we have with the new house next door.
Sure.
And so I hadn't heard anything. I just kind of wondered what the status of your discussions were. I kind of wondered, did anyone drive by, take a look at it? But again, we're really appealing to you for some assistance with this. One other statement, I'll let you kind of answer my question, but I just feel like, folks, that we have contributed monetarily to Clear Creek Township. We pay a pretty hefty tax. I'll be out front. We pay $10,000 property taxes a year on that property, of which Clear Creek Township gets a pretty healthy chunk. I think it's like $1,600 to $1,800. So, sorry.
I expect it.
Yeah, 69% goes to the schools, which I'm a conservative, and I have issues with about how the schools are going these days. Here and there, I'm off the subject, but I feel like Clear Creek Township is definitely a community that's in transition. And the current ordinance, which I have a copy of, that has the height limits, with all due respect, guys, that seems like to me, that's just out of step with the times, the 21st century.
As we said the last time when you were here, we're taking a look at that, and Jeff has sent us some ideas that he's come up with, and we're not ready to finalize that, but I think you'll find that the thinking is in the same line that you're thinking, and you'll see something here very soon that we'll be getting ready to put forward that change in the zoning code, which takes a bit of time. We have to advertise it, and it has to take 30 days, but I expect probably next meeting.
Yeah, I was just where I was out last week.
Yeah.
I gave this some ideas to the trustees late
And it was good
the week
idea.
prior,
Good.
and so we've not had some chance to go back and forth with that. So something we see working.
And I would say next meeting we should be ready.
Next week?
Next meeting.
Okay, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the kind of property ours
No,
represents Clear
we
Creek
agree
Township
with
in
you.
the best light, you know. and-
We agree with you,
Yeah.
but there needs to be an update in what we've been doing, and that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
It's a deliberative process. It takes, it honestly, they think about a lot of things when they do it, so.
But we're moving forward on that.
Okay, and let me say one other thing. I'm not a mean person. I don't have any ill feelings towards these people other than the behavior I've seen. I just would like them to mow their yard.
That's not
You know.
unreasonable.
And I also feel a little concerned, and my neighbor Hepperly's asked me, like, how'd the meeting go last time, and did they say anything about the trees? Because it's a little bit of a burr in his saddle that he had to buy trees, we had to buy trees, the other two parties have not had to buy trees. And I don't know if you can comment on that, if anything's happening there.
Yeah, I can give you an update. The property that's immediately south of you did not plant the trees within their year mark. They went through the 30-day cycle, which is expired. They have put forth plans. They expect to have that in place by Thanksgiving. If they do, then we'll let them put that in. If not, then it'll go to our law director, who will proceed with prosecution.
Okay, I appreciate that.
The one that's further south, so 2 south of you, has a variance. Part of, one of the conditions of the variance is that the trees have to survive. If they do not survive, then they have to be planted at the,
Ordinance level.
correct.
Yeah.
So, and when I went out, it's probably been 3 weeks ago, there were 2 that were questionable, and 1 that appeared to have no leaves. So I'm monitoring this. So there'd be at least 1 tree that would be, if not more, required to be at the current standard.
Okay. So in the end, I'll let you guys go to the meeting, I'll leave, get out of your hair. But, I think in the end, all right, people just wanted to be treated fairly, you know. I gotta do it, they gotta do it, you know, that kind of thing, so, okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time, and, I think I'll just check in, would Jeff be the focal point? I'll just
Yeah,
check
once
in
I
with you
have
next week.
information, I will give you
Okay.
an update.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is new business for administration. Recommendation to reject the real estate purchase contract dated September 11th.
Yeah, we put this on the agenda not as to highlight anything, it is an actual contract offer, and as such, the board needs to delegate the authority to me to either approve or reject it. So I bring it forward without comment. You know what my recommendation is. I've discussed it with you individually. So with that, it's yours.
Just to be clear, what is the asking price for that property?
The asking price is going to be between 160 and 170 once it's listed, but the offer that was made.
No, I know what the offer was, I wanted to reconfirm where we were, because I thought I thought it was more than 155.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Would you like a motion for us
Sure.
to direct you to reject it? I'd like to entertain a motion to reject the contract. So.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Thank you.
Second item for new business is the information that I sent you last week about the employment bonds. Generally speaking, we'll buy a first-party bond individually as is required by the Revised Code for you. Say what you will about the coverages and limits and that sort of thing. They do cater to, obviously, the townships, and they are going to keep their eye on the ball more than every place that I've ever worked. It's always, shoot, we forgot to renew the bond for our, for the next election cycle. So I would like to turn that over to Otarma and let them include a bond as part of our annual property casualty coverage. And we only have to buy a bond every term for each of you.
It's going to save us money to start with.
It will. It'll be a little cheaper. I mean, it's not prohibitively expensive to do it.
Is there a motion to approve the purchase of the common surety bond?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Mr. Wade, I'm sorry, there will be a resolution coming on, because the statute
Yes.
does require it, so,
I saw that.
Mr. Clark's been directed to do that, and we'll come back with an official resolution, so we follow the statute. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else, Matt, at this time?
No.
Okay. Fire district, only what you have on the consent agenda, anything else to add?
I'll have a first staff update.
Okay. And then, police department? No, sir. Okay. Road and parks?
Nothing, sir.
Okay. Zoning and planning?
If you're wanting to further discuss what we discussed in public comment, but I have nothing else to bring forward.
You don't want to talk about that now? I didn't bring, you'll have to, I read that Jeff sent me, you want to talk about that? Let's take a couple minutes. Forget what you're.
That's the most recent modification. With the intent of what the doctor's trying to do is we're having all these wildflower areas pop up, so to speak, people want to maintain. So I'm trying to put forth a standard with the noxious weeds and those, if that's the desire, changing the height and platted, and then trying to figure out the 5 acre and above, how do those fit into the Tetris mix, so to speak. At this point in time, you have a version that talks about if you're in residential exclusive use, So truly, you took your 5-acre, 10-acre tract, anything below the CAUV threshold for having to clear dollar figure. And if you're truly using that all residentially, you get no agricultural break, then it should be treated one way. If truly you have an agricultural use underneath the CAUV to be the standard, then it can be treated a secondary way. So that's how I'm trying to go about it. I'm open for modifications, discussion, redirection, so that we can get it to something that you guys are agreeable with.
What are your thoughts on that now so far as, your height for the under 10 acres and under?
Yeah, it's coming down. I'm trying not to have it so that the only thing that I do is grass maintenance for the jurisdiction. I mean, that being said, there are things that are out there. Bringing it down, the 18 and 36 was our first formalized modification that we did back 10 years ago, more or less, probably more.
No, less than that.
2013. It apparently flies for me.
I was here.
Seems like 10 years ago.
I mean, you're having fun, Jeff.
But with that, you know, it was an attempt to say, okay, we're gonna treat these two different. And there's been some acceptance of that. I've gotten consistent discussion from neighbors of, oh, I've gotta wait another couple of weeks when in a platted subdivision, you just cut it. It's now to where I would typically cut it again as the neighbor, and we have to wait for it to go up. So bringing that down makes sense. Basically making that a 12-inch, so we brought it down 6 inches, bringing down the 5-acre that is exclusive residential down to the 18, so it kind of stair steps, and leaving the true ag as 36, but giving you have the discretion case by case is a way to get there. Putting the noxious weeds at the 18-inch is where you should have them seed out, you know, so you can actually identify some things. I'm not a botanist. I mean, that comes part of the discussion that, okay, we're gonna have to go through here and make sure that these are what they are, and at some point, you know, in their development, you get to figure out it is a Canadian thistle. You know, you can see that type of thing. So I'm really putting forth as the first blush, but if you really think that 8 inches is what should be there, as I've talked with other entities, and it is your discretion, it's what you want it to be. Think about what you cut and what you don't cut on your guys' property, and think, is that something that we should get there? Basically, the idea was to have something cut in a regular fashion. We had discussion back in 2013 that we didn't want it to apply to all our ditches, because you're only required to mow those ditches 3 times a year, type of thing. So how do we balance out these two ideas? It's a number, and whatever number you're truly comfortable at the end of the day, I can impose.
You know, and not just to help satisfy this guy, just overall, you know, we have to have a bad neighbor, or we wouldn't be in this situation. But overall, and for the future, it seems like we are a little high. I'm not sure I know exactly what the Cason's got to see this.
It's just the last one you said.
Yes.
Yeah. No, so, I don't, he used examples of cities. We're not a city. That's the whole point of living in a township. So, the 9-inch thing for me is more about that window that I feel like we had a blind spot in, which is that 5 to 10, and how do you handle it if it's, you know, income-driven CAUV, or, and then those of us that have over 10, it's a different dynamic. But even in that case, I know all 3 of our properties. I mean, I mow mine at 3.5 where I mow it. So 12 seems a lot, 18 seems a whole lot. So, but you've got to have that window, so if somebody doesn't drive by my place and say, well, this front field's 3 feet tall, well, I fail it. So, it's kind of, the 5 to 10 is the conundrum, and I think 12 may be a little high. I mean, if they're not going to have CAUV, and we can distinguish those two, I think 12, I mean, maybe it's 9.
I'm okay with 8.
8 or 9? Was 8 the standard or 9?
Well, 8 is what Washington Township had, and that was the standard that he was putting forth as, it should be there.
They probably don't have any rules on that.
Well, that's the other part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
part of what we're hitting are these tracts that we're trying to encourage, quote-unquote, ruralness. And part about living on acreage is you don't always bring it down to a manicured lawn.
Right.
You know, so the idea that we had back prior to 2013, and then continued on with the idea for the 36-inch, was, okay, if you truly have larger acreage, create a border for you. You know, make that picture frame that you mow a distance, so that if you don't want to mow your entire field, and you don't have it as agriculture, give a distance to your neighbor so you don't have a spread of weeds, is what the idea was. I think as we continue on with this, we probably will have a numbering change again. So starting with wherever you guys want to start, it can be the second rendition of this, and we can revisit. Having some effort go further down, if we just go back to Ryan Road for a moment, you know, I get calls on individuals who live on Ryan. After we cut it, they want to cut the next week, next 2 weeks, and I have constant trying to explain 18 inches are back there. So if that were falling down to 12, that would eliminate some of those phone calls. If we truly go less than that, it's going to eliminate. But we still have a 2-week cycle minimum. It goes between meetings. So if you think about grass during high cut, season, so can we, if we cut it the first week, we'll have already ready the second cycle of the month. So those are the only other things that just logistically, want you guys just give some guidance on.
So do we have now, is there supposed to, on the 5-acre tract, is the border, is that supposed to be done on the 5-acre tract?
Well, we imposed it that way, though I've not written it that way. So I can further clarify the boundary minimum of their setback should be imposed, or just a number if you want to be 50, something. There's a property down that's, just as an example, on 122 that's owned by Marathon. Marathon is now gone out of that area, but they still have one track on one side of the road they treat one way, one track on the other side of the road they treat another. And there's an individual who has 5-acre tract to the east of their driveway. And ask, okay, what can I do? I'm being impacted. I called up, talked with the maintenance group and said, hey guys, if you just put the minimum distance and gave them the 50 foot, since that was what their front yard setback would be, as a border, you can keep the other, reduce costs by not having to mow everything, but give this guy some relief. And they've consistently been doing that. So if that's something you want to have in place, but think about your fields, what's a true distance that is acceptable if it's in production versus not production. You guys play with that more than I do, so. I want to be equitable, but.
My hay fields go as close to the fence as possible.
Yeah. But if it wasn't a hay field, okay, you gave up hay for whatever reason.
Pasture?
It just was a pasture land that, I assume you would bush hog the pasture at some point for the livestock.
Oh, yeah.
What is that height that you typically do it at? That you say, okay, this is what a field would look like as residential. This is what I want the field to be as agricultural.
I don't mind it, when it hits 8 inches, I mow it again, or below that.
Okay.
Whatever. Otherwise, you just get piles of dead grassland, and pastures, and those kind of crap.
I have a couple things too while you're on topic.
Okay.
Typically, whatever you set that at, I receive calls and they demand that we maintain a right-of-way with our mower to the same height as that we've set this at. Sometimes it's almost, if our mower goes down, we're gonna have to go get mowers. If I have a guy down with the back surgery or whatever, and we pull someone out of the mower because we're short, it's impossible for us to maintain, because it takes 4 to 6 weeks to do one lap in the township. So sometimes in the spring and fall, it's impossible for us to maintain some of that, so I don't know if that needs to be possibly drawn out separate. And then the second thing would be, I've talked to Jeff a few times, we've had some issues with people who grow the stupid cattails in their ditches. And they want, some people prefer those, some people don't. We've gone back and forth. If the cattails aren't hindering the flow of water, creating issues, we let them go. Then you have a neighbor that demands the height issue for grass is a certain height. That should include cattails as well for our maintenance, so that might be something you may want to think about while you're on topic too. Just to throw it out there while you're looking at things.
We are required by the high revised code to cut the ditches 3 times a year. I would keep that. I wouldn't go to a height. And you could, I know you're not gonna make any people complain happy about that, but that's reality, and I wouldn't mess with that at all. What do you guys think?
I agree. I mean, I don't think some people mow their own ditches. I mean, if they're that serious about it, they're maintaining them usually.
Most people do, but
Yeah.
every now and then you'll get a few that
You get
want
one-
it manicured, you know, just like,
Refer them to Jeff if they
My neighbor
complain.
won't mow hers, and she always is asking,
He can handle it.
when are they coming by? I mow mine. But,
You know, the county blows right by mine. That edge is about 70 degrees, I can't get my mower up there, but, oh well.
I have to push one. But anyway, well, I wouldn't mess with that, and so far as the cattails, I think you have to use your judgment on that. I cut certain things down myself, but that's just me.
some people love them, they like the way they look.
Yeah, okay.
Can't make everybody happy.
That
I think I
is
would.
accurate statement. Never do that.
But I do think that on the 10 acres and under, maybe we should, I can't see on a 5-acre tract, asking them to mow like the rest of their yard, 50 foot in and around the border of their property. I think that's too much. Now, I think 8 inches is a good idea, and if we want to say we need to mow in 10 feet or something around the edge to make it a little more manicured, is that asking too much? To put on the property owner that doesn't have a riding lawnmower and pushes everything? Well, you got 5 acres, you better get a riding lawnmower.
Yeah.
It'll be very rare, obviously. That's just a thought. That's a law.
I mean, we've got several different levels here. I would think 8 inches would, just off the top of my head, platted subdivision could go to 8 inches. Designated maintain wildfire areas regardless of platted, could go to 12.
What is it now?
18.
Yep.
An unplatted parcel less than 10 acres in size and exclusive residential use that's not CAUV,
Yep.
between 5 and 10 acres. That's the question. Do we go to 18 or do we drop it to 12?
I'd say you take it to 12. So it's not platted, but in a residential area.
Yeah, it's not CAUV.
Because it's gonna go to C.
Yeah, exactly. At 18 inches for sure.
Okay.
So we go 12 there, and then we leave the CAUV qualifying. Now, you know, what this is gonna create for somebody like this situation, he may try to go CAUV and try to show a profit.
If that's the case, it's the county to make the determination if there's enough viable land.
Yeah, he has to have 10 acres plus.
You can do it between 5 and 10 acres, but you have to show the income.
I don't think so. You have to have 10 acres. My brother made hay off of his, he only had 9 acres, he had to buy an acre, ditch to get CAUV.
Well, when I went through it, a wise man told me not to get 10, you have to go above 10. So I didn't have to necessarily show income. But, I mean, you can clarify
I would
that.
clarify that. It was
My
my
understanding was
understanding.
between 5 and 10 you could do it, but you had to show the income.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have never known that, but, I mean, that's right, for sure.
Because the first pass I did on my place was 9 acres
Okay,
before I added the field.
and didn't have income.
Right.
And they're gonna cut out of the acreage truly residential, they're gonna
Right.
cut out your house.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So-
it would theoretically need to be closer to 7 for them to have 5 of it to be CAUV.
But if they're truly, let's just say they're growing something with specialty items on there, that
Right.
doesn't take up, maybe they're doing hops, I don't know, they're doing something that's unique, that grows up instead of over, I don't know. It's not my bag, but,
They could do a little
you know, if they have
more
timber,
area.
you know, as part of the thing that they're doing,
Yeah.
that's gonna have a different age. So there's gonna be some to be put in there, but at the end of the day, I think we're concerned with people who are not trying to make a living off of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Legitimately, and need to
They
maintain.
want a gigantic yard.
Yeah, and what should that gigantic yard be? You know, 5 acres, we're saying at this point in time, that would fall down to a foot.
Yep.
And then you guys have a case by case for any other property that is truly getting CAUV, and you say, hey, this is a 5 acre one that is getting CAUV, but guys, you're next to, you know, 2 platted subdivisions, it needs to be maintained this way. Oh, you're a 5 acre next to other 5 acres, 100 acres, you can be treated that way. So if you got your case by case, because of their location, I think you can take that into consideration and give you a little bit more flexibility. I'm
Sure.
not speaking out there.
No, not at all. You're articulating a distinction and to why you treat different properties differently based on the status of what you're trying to maintain. It makes sense.
Okay.
The other thing too that you have to realize, like Jeff and Scott are pointing this out, is that just because it's 12 inches doesn't mean that next day there's a violation.
Right.
You have to go through the notice process, you have to pass it as a resolution, that you have to give them 7 days. So I mean, you know, there are built-in notice and timing provisions, and the revised code's point is not to, for us to be mowing people's lawns. It's for us to give them notice so they do it, and then if we have to do it, okay, fine. But just because it's 12 inches and 1 centimeter doesn't mean we're out there that next day cutting that lawn.
Right.
Well, we'll have to point that out.
Yeah, right. Right.
Because he'll be over there with this measure.
Yeah, I agree, and that's nothing the township can do, anything, that's General Assembly imposition.
Okay, well, let's work on something like that.
Okay.
Around this.
Yeah, I think we can probably work on that.
All right, Steve,
Yeah, and it's on that line 4, at very bottom, it says minimum of 36, should that be maximum?
Probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
We
apologies.
want them to get to 3 feet, yeah, probably, that's a good point.
Okay.
Did you catch that?
See, zoning did have some.
I wasn't sure what we do, so thank you.
All about grass.
Thank you. All right, next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Brown? Yay. And staff updates.
I did have one thing. We've been dealing with some issues with the septic system at Station 23 for some time. We did a repair last year, hoping that it would fix it, and it hasn't, so we had a contractor come out and dig out the top last week, and it looks like we're gonna have a pretty hefty repair. Still waiting to get some price costs, but we're probably looking at the $10,000 to $15,000 range to get it fixed and get it fixed correctly. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up, so you were aware, yeah. It's crappy problem. Well,
Good my ignorance.
I spoke with the operations person from the Career Center, and they do have sewer going to Lebanon. He's 99% sure, so he's looking into that. I'm sure that would be a hefty cost, but down the road.
Depends how far it is.
See the one that designed their retention pond there in the corner?
Oh, my.
The new water park at the Career Center. Oh. Yeah, that's one of the splash parks.
The redneck place.
So that may be something we do entertain down the road for like a long term.
If we continue to put money after money, I think it might be something to look at in that direction.
What was the failure? Do you know that, usually those systems last many years, so I
Right.
wonder what the real failure was.
It sounds like, and don't hold me to this exactly, but preliminarily, when they installed that, they cut everything they didn't need. Like there was a filtration system that was optional, that they cut for the cost, and that seems to be part of the problem. And so when they built those two stations, we had a levy, it didn't pass, so they cut the millage. And then by the time we got a reduced millage and the price of construction went up, some major cuts had to be made for those buildings. So they were built as bare bone as possible, and we're kind of reaping that havoc now. Pay now, pay me later. But I'm not a septic expert, so more to come. Hopefully we'll have a report.
We will be before this is.
I'm learning more than I have to know. I'm a city guy.
It goes downhill.
That's what I hear.
And it cannot go uphill, I've been having that conversation a lot.
Okay, anything else under staff update?
Yeah, last week I went to a meeting at the county for the Census 2020 update, and they provided us with some status updates and the new website and that sort of thing. One interesting fact that I did learn is from time to time we do have to use census data, pull raw data from American Fact Finder. They are doing away with Fact Finder, and they're replacing it with the different mechanism to research communities and populations and compare and do all that sort of thing. So, be a bit of a learning curve, but I've heard anyway that it's supposed to be a little bit more user-friendly than FactFinder is. If you've ever used FactFinder, it's not the easiest thing to drill data from. So, but they are ramping up their efforts. They're actually hitting the streets right now doing going in address canvas, and they asked if their partners, all of us in the community, townships that were there, cities that were there at the census meeting, if we would put it on our website, and of course we will. Post it up there for folks to, remind folks to fill out the census.
Yeah, I put it on Facebook.
With that?
Yeah, I put it on Facebook,
Yeah,
think
right.
of a response.
Right.
Anything else?
I had one thing, did you pass on that information from the prosecutor's office?
I have not yet, but
Just to mention, I went to a workshop a couple of weeks ago that the prosecutor's office is putting on concerning education and information to minimize or curtail child sexual assault. And it was very worthwhile. You know, I think it was about a 2-hour workshop that I would like to offer maybe to our staff initially, and then if things look favorable in that, maybe offer it to the public. Just this is something.
Who actually did it? Was it the prosecutor's office or they?
People from, my daughter Nikki is in Victim Justice. She was involved, and I gave Matt her contact information. I think she's going to be reaching out to him. I think she sent some information, but it's a worthwhile workshop. I went to it and said, man, there are things that we don't know. 90% of the assaults on children are people that we know and trust. And, the age to start talking to kids about the realities, 8 years old. Because if we don't teach them and hold them in the proper way, they're going to learn improper ways, through the school and social media. Something that helps.
Well, I'm sure, John, you probably, all of you guys have been in classes on that.
When I moved Sergeant Corner over to detectives years ago before his passing, it seemed to coincide with that. It was just alarming to see the amount of calls he gets. And he would come back to Strop from the meetings down here, and Detective Barton now comes back, and he's like, it's just ridiculous what's going on. Yes, I think last year we started moving safety down to also start looking at this computer issue and sexual assaults and stuff like that. A little component of that too, to start trying to get to the kids with some information there to look at that. But it's unbelievable what people will do to each other.
I think it's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more awareness we have, the better off we are.
Absolutely.
I would be glad to coordinate that on behalf of the township and with, make an elective workshop for staff if they would choose to come. Obviously, a relevant ongoing relationship with, victim services to host them for any community outreach meetings that we want to have.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second?
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
And Mr. Wade?
Okay.